Everybody, welcome back to Cruiseman's Garage. I told you that I would update you if I had any more information on this safety recall on the Honda Goldwing.
This video is sponsored by Cruiseman's Garage Honda Goldwing Maintenance Video Series.
So in case you're not aware, there has been a new safety recall on the 2018 to 2021 Honda Goldwings. It was just issued last week. And I have a video where I describe all of the details of that recall, and I'm going to put a link up here in the corner of this video. I'm not going to go into all of that again today, but I just want to let you know if you're not familiar with this, maybe this is the first time you're hearing about this, make sure you check out that video so you can get all the details. Basically, it is a bolt that has to be replaced in the engine, in the transmission, more accurately. And when I talked to you a little bit about the safety recall the other day, just a brief history, they're going to let you know in January. If you have a 2018 to 2021, doesn't matter whether it's a bagger or a tour model, doesn't matter whether it's a manual transmission or a DCT. Any of these models could be subject to this recall. Now that doesn't mean every 2018 to 2021 will be subject to the recall. You will be notified if your VIN number and your lot number falls within that range. They will let you know in January. Now it is possible you might be able to contact your Honda dealer before that, and maybe they have some updated information where they can put your VIN number in and they can check to see if your Goldwing is one of the ones that will be recalled. I'm not sure. I did speak with Jacob, or I texted with Jacob today over at DFW Honda. Have a little bit more information, but not a lot of information. But I did want to give you what I had. And I did get an email from one of my viewers and customers, Roy Barons. Thank you, Roy, for sending this over. And he sent me a copy of some information from one of the GL1800 forums, probably one that I'm banned on because I've been banned on a couple. He says that Honda may be able to get to the UBS bolt without pulling the engine. In my last video, I mentioned that Max and I had a conversation about this bolt failure, potential bolt failure, and that in the case where those engines had to be repaired, the engines had to be removed from the bike because it did catastrophic damage to the engine. So the only way to crack the case and get to all the damaged parts and replace everything was to remove the engine from the bike. This maintenance or this recall procedure, since you're basically just replacing the bolt rather than repairing any damage to the engine, it appears that you can get access to that bolt without removing the engine from the bike. Now, I don't know what all is involved in that. And Jacob told me that that is true. You can get access to this bolt without removing the engine from the motorcycle. Now, whether or not Honda is going to specifically say that the dealers need to remove the engine, I don't know that yet, and I don't think Jacob knows that quite yet, but he does know that you can get access to the bolt without removing the engine. And there's even a couple of owners who have done this themselves. They have actually gone in on their motorcycle and replaced this bolt on their own. I would not recommend the average owner attempt that on their own. There's always the potential for something to go wrong. From what I've read in other places, there are certain times when you're working back there in the rear of the engine and the transmission that if you drop something, if something falls out of your hand, then you got to pull the engine. But I don't know how accurate all that information is, but basically it sounded to me like something, unless you are very, very comfortable working on a motorcycle, which apparently some of these folks are. If you live near a large dealership that has a top level, top tier Goldwing service tech, that might be your best choice. But it's still going to be a pretty involved process getting to access to that bolt and replacing it, because they do have to remove, I think, the rear cover off of the engine. They have to replace a gasket, and then they have to replace this bolt. And of course, it has to be torqued properly and everything else. That's what I know right now. I mentioned that if you contact your Honda dealer, it's possible they could look up your VIN number. I don't know if they know it now, but they might be able to get there before January, before you get the notice. They might be able to look up whether or not your motorcycle is in this group that the recall will apply to. There must have been a bad batch of these bolts, and this is why you're only hearing about it now, because it can take years for enough of these cases to where Honda has to go back and say, okay, what are the commonalities, these failures that have happened? What is the common thread? And it could have taken them this long to realize, okay, it's only happened on 2018 to 2021 bikes. We do know they did change the part number for that bolt in 2022. We don't necessarily know if it was a metallurgical issue, but it probably was. It could have also been on the manufacturing line at Honda. Somebody could have torqued it improperly, over-torqued it or under-torqued it. We don't know for sure, but I suspect, and Max suspects, and I'm talking about Max at Traction Dynamics. Max has a video out where he discusses this. You might want to check out his YouTube channel as well. And we suspect it was a metallurgic issue. They just got a batch of bad bolts in from their supplier. And it probably took them this long to figure out, okay, it's from this to this is where everything has happened. So this is the range of VIN numbers that came off the line during those 3 years that this bad material affects. And that's, if your bike is in that range, then your bike could be subject to a recall. I don't know if every 2018 to 21 is going to be subject to the recall. The way I read the safety recall or the service bulletin or the whatever I got from Honda, the safety recall, it's basically a stop sell order. The way I read it, it made it sound like it wasn't every Goldwing that was sold from 2018 to 2021, like it was just a range. More of this information comes out, I will let you know. And Jacob has promised that he'll let me know. When he knows more, he'll keep me in tune with what's going on. So again, I want to reemphasize, I would not panic. I think the cases where this bolt has failed and it has caused damage to the engines, there have been no reported cases of a rear wheel locking up, anybody getting injured. Have not heard of that. All I've heard is the engine stops running. You basically coast over to the shoulder of the road or wherever you are, and the bike won't start. You'd have to have it towed to the nearest shop or back to your house or whatever. And I know it's always a fear, oh, the rear wheel's going to lock up. If the bolt's running around in the engine and the engine stops, it's going to lock the rear wheel. Apparently, that's not the case. Now, maybe I misspoke the other day. I'm pretty sure I had heard this had only happened on DCT models, but in his video the other day, Max said he's only heard of it happening on the 6-speed models. But it's the same bolt. I mean, the same bolt is used in either transmission. So I doubt, I'm pretty sure I've seen reports, people talking about it's happened on their DCT where the bolt has failed. But again, it's such a minute, of all the tens of thousands of Goldwings that have been sold since 2018, we're talking, you could probably count them on 2 hands how many times this has happened. Now, granted, it is a catastrophic thing if it happens, but the odds of it happening to you on your bike are so slim It's not like Honda is saying, hey, if you own one of these bikes, stop riding it, put it in the garage and don't do anything until we fix it. They're not saying that. They're just telling Honda dealers, you can't sell any more 2018 to 2021s until we get these fixed. I personally would go out and ride my motorcycle, enjoy it. For some of you, probably half the country, your bike's getting ready to go into winter storage anyway. We're going to be doing a winterizing video next week on this channel, so keep an eye out for that. Some tips on things you might want to do before you store your bike for the winter. And don't forget, if you haven't done so already, please do me a favor, click that little subscribe button down below. Don't forget the notification bell so YouTube will let you know if we come up with any new videos on this topic or any other topics. And if you enjoyed this video, got anything out of it, do me a favor, give it a thumbs up. That does help the YouTube rankings. Feel free to share this with your friends or on your social media. And again, if I get more information, I will update it. It'll have the same thumbnail as we have right now, but it'll just have an update number on it. So make sure you check those thumbnails to make sure you're getting the latest information on this safety recall. Thanks for joining me today. Until we see you next time, ride often, but ride safe.